The sound of wheels spinning into nothing and the look of panic on Rebecca's face made every drop of sweat I put into that trench worth it. Her SUV slowly sinking into the mud while she screamed on the phone was the perfect example of poetic justice. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how I ended up turning my own road into a trap, I need to go back a few weeks. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to get access to more stories like this. I've been living on a small ranch in Texas for over 15 years. I love the peace of this place, waking up to birds singing, taking care of my animals, and keeping my land in order. My private dirt road winds almost a kilometer from the main road to my house. I always took pride in keeping it in perfect shape, level, compacted, with a drainage system built to handle even the worst storms. Everything changed when they built the Whispering Pines condo right next to my property. At first, I didn't mind. People have the right to live wherever they want, right? The problem started when Rebecca, the newly elected president of the Homeowners Association, decided my private road made the perfect shortcut for her and her select friends from the condo. The first time I noticed strange cars driving by, I thought they were lost visitors. But soon I saw a pattern. A shiny white SUV passed by every day, usually speeding and kicking up clouds of dust that cover my garden. When I finally managed to catch the vehicle, I saw Rebecca at the wheel with her artificially blonde hair and huge sunglasses, talking on the phone without even glancing at the road. "Excuse me," I called out as she passed. Rebecca slammed on her brakes and lowered her sunglasses in irritation. "This is private property. This road isn't public." "Oh dear," she replied with a condescending smile. "Now that Whispering Pines is established, we need to optimize our access. Your little road is perfect for cutting our trip to town short. Don't worry, only I and a few important residents will use it." I was stunned by her presumption. "Ma'am, I built this road, I maintain it, and it's completely on my property." She laughed as if I'd told her a joke. "Things change, dear. There are over 100 families now. You can't just stop progress." And she sped off, leaving me covered in dust. I decided to be reasonable. I put up private property, no trespassing signs at both ends of the road. The next morning, I found the signs torn down and tossed in the drainage ditch. I reinstalled them, this time cementing them to the ground. 3 days later, someone had driven right over them. I tried talking to Rebecca again when I saw her passing by. "Please, respect my property. The damage you're causing to the road costs money and time to repair." "Look," she said impatiently, "we had a vote at the HOA meeting. We decided this road works better for the community as a secondary access. We're willing to help with maintenance eventually. There was no valid vote because this road isn't subject to your association's rules. It's entirely on my property." "Well, now it's a matter of public interest. If you insist, we'll have to take formal measures." Her threat hung in the air as she left, this time deliberately speeding up to kick up more dust. I decided to install a chain with a padlock at the entrance to the road. The next morning, I found the chain cut. That was the last straw. I called my best friend, Jackson, who had worked in construction before he retired. "Jack, I need your help. I've got a neighbor who doesn't understand the meaning of private property. These new condos always bring trouble," he replied. "What do you have in mind?" "Something that sends a clear message but is legally defensible." As I explained my idea, I could hear his smile growing in his voice. The next morning, Jackson showed up with his backhoe. "Let's call this the erosion control project," he suggested with a wink. "It's totally necessary for proper maintenance of your road." We dug the trench at a strategic point on the road, right after a gentle curve, where it wouldn't be visible until you were practically on top of it. It was nearly 2 meters wide and half a meter deep, and we camouflaged it with a thin layer of straw and dirt so it looked like a normal part of the road. Jackson and I worked all day, also setting up a small detour I could use to bypass the trap. We put up roadwork and detour signs for any legitimate person who needed to use the road, like delivery folks. "This should work perfectly," Jackson commented as we admired our work. "It's deep enough to trap a vehicle, but not deep enough to hurt someone. And technically, we're just controlling erosion." We didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, I was on the porch having coffee when I heard the unmistakable sound of Rebecca's car engine speeding down my road. I settled into my rocking chair and waited. The roar of the engine was followed by the sound of tires skidding, a dull thud, and a piercing scream. I smiled at my coffee cup. I casually walked over to the trench and found Rebecca's white SUV with its front wheels completely stuck in the mud. The airbag had deployed, covering her makeup-laden face with white powder. She was on the phone, yelling about being a victim of a deadly trap. When she saw me, she pointed an accusing finger. You did this on purpose. I'm going to sue you all the way down to the last generation of your family." I just shrugged, keeping my expression neutral. "Good morning to you too, Rebecca. I see you found my erosion control project. I'm sorry you ignored the warning signs and the clearly marked detour." "Erosion control? That's a war trench," she shouted, still trying to get out of the car. I called the sheriff. "You're going to be arrested for attempted murder. It's standard practice on rural properties," I replied calmly, "especially when unauthorized vehicles keep damaging the road. I have all the necessary documentation." Sheriff Tyler arrived about 20 minutes later. Rebecca immediately lunged at him, demanding that I be arrested. Tyler, a man I've known for years, kept his professional demeanor as he inspected the scene. "Sir, can you explain what happened here?" he asked, barely hiding his smile. I explained in detail about the erosion control project, showing him the warning signs and the detour. I mentioned the constant damage caused by unauthorized vehicles and how it was affecting my property. "And this is your private property, correct?" the sheriff asked. "Absolutely. I have all the documents to prove it," Rebecca interrupted. "This is ridiculous. This road is a necessary access for our community." The sheriff turned to her. "Ma'am, from what I see, you entered private property, ignored clear warning signs, and ended up in an accident. I don't see any crime on the owner's part. In fact, you could be charged with trespassing." The look on Rebecca's face as her indignation turned to shock was priceless. She tried to argue, but Tyler wasn't having it. They called a tow truck to remove the SUV, which had a damaged front bumper and possibly suspension issues. While the vehicle was being towed, Rebecca issued her final threat of the day. "This isn't over. You have no idea who you're messing with. I have connections that can make your life a living hell." That same afternoon, I received an official letter from the Whispering Pines Homeowners Association demanding that I immediately restore safe passage on my road and appear at the next HOA meeting to discuss appropriate sanctions for my detrimental conduct toward the community. The letter even included a $500 fine for blocking community access. I laughed so hard I almost cried. Their audacity in trying to find me on my own property was simply hilarious. I saved the letter as evidence for what I suspected would turn into a legal case. My suspicions were confirmed 3 days later when a man in a poorly fitting suit knocked on my door and introduced himself as Greg Thornton, an attorney representing Rebecca and the Whispering Pines HOA. "I'm here to inform you that my clients are initiating a lawsuit for a right-of-way easement by necessity, along with claims for criminal damages and attempted battery," he said pompously, handing me an envelope. "Interesting," I replied, examining his papers that looked like poorly filled-out generic forms. "And which law firm do you represent?" He hesitated. "I'm an independent attorney specializing in real estate law and property disputes." Something didn't seem right. "Can I see your bar card?" After more hesitation, he admitted, "I'm in the process of transferring to Texas. My license in Oregon is still being processed." "I see. And by any chance, are you related to Rebecca?" His face flushed. "I'm her cousin, but that doesn't affect my professional ability." I thanked him for the documents and told him that my own lawyer would be in touch. Once I closed the door, I called Jackson, laughing. "You won't believe this. Rebecca sent her cousin posing as a lawyer to intimidate me." The next morning, the local newspaper ran an article titled, "Rural Resident Sets Up Dangerous Trap for New Neighbors." The piece, clearly influenced by Rebecca, portrayed me as a cranky bumpkin trying to sabotage community progress. It even included a picture of Rebecca's SUV stuck in the trench, with her posing dramatically next to it, pointing at the danger. That genuinely worried me. Public defamation could cause real problems, even if I was legally in the right. I decided it was time to get professional help and look for a definitive legal advantage. I went to the county records office to review all the documents related to my property and the new condo. I spent hours examining maps, deeds, and building permits. That's when I found something that completely changed the game, an easement document associated with the approval of Whispering Pines. The document, signed by the developers of the condo, clearly stated that they were obligated to build their own access road according to the approved plan and were explicitly forbidden from using or claiming pre-existing private roads. It even included a clause imposing substantial fines for each documented violation. Bingo! I murmured as I photographed every page with my cell phone. Armed with that discovery, I sought out Sophia Pritchard, an experienced lawyer specializing in rural real estate law. Unlike Rebecca's lawyer, Sophia had 20 years of real-world experience and a solid reputation. "This is an interesting situation," Sophia said after hearing my story and examining the documents. "They have absolutely no case for an easement, especially with this explicit restriction. In fact, you have a strong case against them for multiple violations. What are our options?" I asked. "We can file for a declaratory judgment confirming your exclusive rights over the road, claim damages for the harm done, and request a court order to prevent any further use. With the evidence of continuous trespassing in this easement document, we might even ask for exemplary damages." I decided to move forward. Sophia prepared all the legal documents, including a detailed timeline of each trespass, photos of the road damage, evidence of my peaceful attempts to resolve the issue, and, of course, the easement document that explicitly forbade the use of my road. Meanwhile, Rebecca ramped up her campaign. She organized a community protest at the beginning of my road, with signs calling me an enemy of progress and a threat to safety. She sent more threatening letters, each more absurd than the last, including attempts to fine me for ever-increasing amounts. Her cousin Greg called almost daily with new legal threats, each one more baseless than the previous. "They're just digging their own grave," Sophia commented when I showed her the letters. Each one is additional evidence of harassment. The formal notice of our lawsuit reached Rebecca and the HOA on a Thursday. By Friday, I received a settlement proposal. They would drop all their claims if I simply allowed the occasional use of the road by selected residents. "They still don't get it, do they?" I asked Sophia on the phone. "Apparently not. We're proceeding with the case." The day of the trial came much sooner than I expected. I put on my only suit, the one I bought 3 years ago for my nephew's wedding, and headed to the county courthouse. Sophia was waiting at the entrance, impeccable in her navy suit, and carrying a briefcase that I knew contained our meticulously organized evidence. "We're in a good spot," she reassured me. "Just answer the questions honestly and let me handle the rest." When we entered the courtroom, I noticed Rebecca sitting at the table on the opposite side, wearing a white dress that seemed to scream innocence. Next to her was Greg, her lawyer cousin, looking nervous as he fumbled with a stack of disorganized papers. Behind them sat several HOA board members with serious expressions, as if about to witness a grave injustice. Judge Harmon, a man in his 60s known for holding no nonsense, entered the room. After the usual formalities, Sophia presented our case with impressive clarity. She showed photos of my road before and after the damage, played videos I had recorded of vehicles trespassing, laid out all my documented attempts at a peaceful resolution, and finally presented the easement document. "Your Honor," Sophia concluded, "this document, signed by the developers of Whispering Pines, explicitly prohibits the use of existing private roads and mandates that their own access road be built. Not only is my client defending his rightful property, but the defendants are violating a legally binding agreement they willingly signed." When it came time for Rebecca and her cousin to speak, the scene was almost embarrassing. Greg stumbled over basic legal terms, citing non-existent statutes and trying to argue a common law right-of-way that made the judge frown. "May I see your attorney credentials, sir?" the judge finally asked. Greg turned pale. "I'm in the process of transferring to Texas, Your Honor." "So you're licensed in another state?" "Well, technically, I'm finalizing my admission in Oregon. The judge removed his glasses and rubbed his temples. Sir, are you telling me you are not a licensed attorney in any state? The courtroom went silent. Rebecca quickly stood up. I can represent myself, Your Honor. My cousin is just advising me. That is highly irregular, ma'am. The judge responded. I suggest you request a postponement to secure proper legal representation. It isn't necessary, Rebecca insisted. I have everything under control. What followed was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. Rebecca argued that my road was essentially public because it was useful to the community. She claimed I'd set up a deadly trap specifically to hurt her. She even suggested I was jealous of the success and prosperity of the condo. When she finished, the judge fell silent for several moments. Ma'am, do you acknowledge that the road in question is entirely on the plaintiff's property? Yes, but... And do you acknowledge that there are legal documents signed by the developers of your condominium explicitly forbidding the use of this road? That document is just a technicality. Technicality, the judge interrupted, is what we call the laws and contracts we don't intend to break. In my courtroom, those are legal obligations. The verdict was swift and absolute. The judge ruled entirely in my favor. The HOA was ordered to pay for all damages to my road, an estimated $8,500, permanently barred from using the road, forced to issue a formal apology, and required to immediately start constructing their own access road, according to the original plan. Additionally, Rebecca was personally fined for contempt of court for trying to mislead the courtroom with false legal representation. The judge also made a point of saying that he would refer Greg's case to the ethics committee. Your Honor, Sophia added before the session ended, my client also requests that the Homeowners Association be required to install a permanent sign at its entrance stating that Mr. My name. S Road is private property and its use is prohibited. Granted, the judge replied without hesitation. Rebecca was red with anger as we left the courthouse. You don't understand what you've done, she said, blocking my way. I am respected in this community. I have connections. You're going to regret this. Sophia stepped forward. Ma'am, I strongly advise you not to issue threats, especially not after today's ruling. That's not a threat. It's a fact, Rebecca replied, dramatically turning away. In the following weeks, life took an unexpected turn. The HOA held an emergency meeting and, according to a friendly neighbor who had moved into the condo, Rebecca was removed as president. Apparently, besides the legal fiasco, they discovered she had diverted association funds for unauthorized executive expenses. The trial story was later published in the very same local newspaper that had once defamed me. This time the headline read, Judge confirms property owner's rights after systematic trespassing by Homeowners Association. The article detailed how Rebecca had abused her position and mentioned the easement document that she conveniently forgot to share with the other residents. The final blow for Rebecca came when someone leaked video footage of the courtroom proceedings. Her most absurd statements, along with the revelation of her cousin as a fake lawyer, turned into a viral meme on social media. Memes featuring her image and phrases like, "This is my road now," and "Technicalities are just laws we don't want to follow" spread widely. The bruised pride was perhaps the most effective punishment for someone so obsessed with status and appearances. Under new leadership, the HOA promptly started building the access road according to the original plan. The interim president, a retired gentleman named Martin, even came personally to hand me a formal apology and a basket of local products as a gesture of goodwill. Most of us didn't even know what was going on, Martin confessed. Rebecca kept telling us you were a problematic neighbor denying reasonable access. She never mentioned the easement document or your peaceful efforts to resolve the issue. I appreciate the apology, I said sincerely. I've never had anything against the residents. I just wanted my property respected. As for the famous trench, I decided to keep it as a permanent feature of my road. I added some decorative plants around it, turning it into a little garden depression that I now informally call the Rebecca Monument. I even built a rustic bridge over it, allowing for safe passage while preserving the memory of my victory. Rebecca eventually put her house up for sale and moved to Florida, as far as I know. Her damaged SUV was replaced by an identical model, but she never drove on my road again. Ironically, the new access road built by the HOA ended up being more efficient than the shortcut she so desperately wanted, cutting everyone's commute by about 5 minutes. Jackson, my loyal friend and partner in the trench operation, ended up moving into a small cabin on the north side of my property. After all this action, life in the city seems boring, he explained. Now we spend many afternoons on the porch, drinking beer and occasionally raising our glasses in a silent toast toward whispering pines. Over time, I developed a cordial relationship with several of the condo residents. Many of them, finally free from Rebecca's toxic influence, turned out to be decent people who just wanted to live peacefully like me. Some even became regular customers of the organic products I grow on the ranch. The sign ordered by the judge still stands at the condo entrance, a silent reminder that rules and boundaries exist for a reason. Occasionally, when I pass it on my way into town, I can't help but smile. Last spring, I planted sunflowers around the trench. When they bloom, they form a golden circle visible from afar, like a little sun in the middle of my road. In a way, that hole in the ground became a symbol of something bigger. Not just a monument to my victory over Rebecca, but a reminder that sometimes defending what's yours is worth every drop of sweat. Peace has returned to my little corner of Texas. The mornings are once again filled only with the sound of birds singing and the gentle lowing of cattle. My road, now fully restored and better maintained than ever, winds peacefully through my property without any unwanted interruptions. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to get access to more stories like this. As the old Texan saying my grandfather used to repeat goes, good fences make good neighbors. In my case, it took a good trench and a sensible judge to finally bring about the harmony I cherished.